about keeping the discussions separate. That's something that we can live with. But we do really, when we came together 4 years ago, we came as ESP and certified staff. And wanting to make changes to help retain educators. And so it's important to us to stay united and not create divisions. I don't think it's going to be good for students to have divided educators in the same building. So I think what we would like to ask for is that we can have the discussion separate and separately. And then if we would not make a final agreement, because one agreement would be contingent on the other agreement. So whatever we come to for classified, we'd want to see what we came to for certified, because we want to make sure that this is good for everybody and not a situation where it's not and creates division. So.
Yes, to not being divided. Totally agree. I don't even, go ahead, Brent. I don't even know how to think about the one on the other. I don't know.
I guess I would say that that's up to you all. The district is not going to commit to that, but it's up to you to TA either one of these deals.
And just
what do you mean
saying is that we would negotiate. Sorry, Jill, please go ahead.
You said TA, Brent. I'm not sure what that means.
Sorry, Jill, I meant tentative agreement.
Okay, thank you.
So when I say that, what I mean is we agree here at the table to a contract, but it's dependent on taking it back to your membership, getting them to vote on it. So you don't have a deal until you sign, and you don't sign until your members have approved it.
But what I'm hearing from folks is that we're going to negotiate or talk about the items separately, but say one group is, getting close to a deal and the other one's still outstanding. There would no be resolution reached until both agreements, if what we're calling it, are resolved.
No, Emily, that's not what we said. I mean, what I said is that the local has the ability to TA either agreement anytime. And the district is not going to be in a position to say that we're not going to agree to a deal with the teachers if we can't get one we're not saying that. They can say that, but we're not saying that.
Yeah. I was saying it from the lens of the association.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood.
We don't want to be in a position where one group is happy and the other group is not. And so, we want to make sure that, to Brent's point, we are equally and fairly representing different employee groups. And in order to do that, I think that's kind of the way we feel is the best way to go forward.
And I'll add that I will acknowledge the diversity of the classified staffing situation. We're all aware of that. But in a small district, there are very few classified that I don't have some contact with. I have pretty strong relationships with my custodians, some of the bus drivers, and among the local team, I think that spreads the fingers pretty far as who we're in contact with. And knowing that we're representing our membership that's part of our responsibility to make sure that we're understanding their wants and needs. So we're very cognizant of the load that would entail, and we're ready to take it on.
Any other questions, thoughts on that at this point? All right. So for April 25th, you can decide who wants to go first. We're setting our agenda. If we want to talk about classified folks or ESPs versus certified, hour and a half. Okay. And I know I missed you guys when you were all together. I think that was the 31st. Regarding our bargaining issues that we're bringing forward, of course, it's compensation. We had the sick leave bank. I'm sorry, I'm missing one, aren't I?
Days, contract days, number of work days, and professional development days.
Yes. In regards to the when you all met on the 31st, did you come up with any proposals? What's the status on our negotiating items for this year?
I think you just said them correctly. Polly, Jill, Jackie, Melanie, what did I miss, you guys?
I think that's,
Yeah, my question was more of where are we at? Did you guys any proposals? Did you have any talks about it? Did you solve the world's problems?
No, we did not talk about substantive issues in the last one about, we didn't bargain. We did more of the like norming stuff.
Okay, got it. Sorry about that.
If am I correct in saying, like, I'm just gonna say that, you guys push back or tell me if it's right thinking or not. We had a subcommittee, did the PTO. We kind of said, okay, we think we've got something there. We're gonna go through everything else and then we'll agree at the end. And then we know that we've got two in front of us, again, compensation as well as number of work days and professional development days. Okay. And I don't know that this will be an issue or not. I forgot to say it at the beginning. I was sharing it with Polly when we were in the Googles, but not over here. In a perfect world, I'd love to be able to hop off by 6:40 so I can get to City Hall to hug them up close so they'll approve that final development that could mean, well, it will mean if they approve it, employee housing for folks. So I don't know if we'll go that long or not, but I didn't want to surprise folks with that. I think that's really important. You can all come if you want. We'll sit in the front row and lean in.
We'll be done before 6:40. That's the request. That will be done before 6:40. So you have a chance to get over for that.
Okay. Yeah. Or if you guys need to keep going and I just go, I'm okay with that too. I want to make sure I'm there.
Okay. In regards to the PTO committee, have you all met? Have you started working on that just for status updates?
Yeah, I think Holly, Robin, and I, and another member who's not on the bargaining team, we met. We have a recommendation. I think we talked about the recommendation in this group. We all think it's good. We just want it to be part of a larger compensation package at the end. So I think we are agreeing in concept, but we haven't, put anything to paper quite yet, if that makes sense.
Anything that you want to discuss with the full group, or do you want to wait until we have more of the total compensation conversation?
No, I think it's just about what the total cost of the package is going to be. I'm guessing. Q, is that where you guys are at?
Yeah, I think we were all. I think exactly how you framed it is where we left it. Like, we're good now. Let's go through the other topics and then scoop them all together.
Okay. Go back on that one. Regarding professional development days and professional development and work days or compensation, do we want to just kind of get that started? It's 5:20.
I would love to. We were in our little small group and I'm like, let's just, right? Because I feel like the days fly by. So if you guys are willing, yeah. And I'm going to be walking as I'm listening, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, which would we like to start with? We have professional development or work days. A burning desire to get these topics started.
I think professional development and work days kind of go hand in hand because the school calendar is relatively set. It's just the proportions of when work days and when our professional development, or the contact days, right? Okay.
Yeah, there's been discussion. I met with Q and Michelle McNeil a couple of weeks ago to look at how the hours were kind of playing out throughout the year based on our contract. What would be our contractual beginning and end of the day? How do we honor building differences, to, like, she doesn't want to say you are working from here to here, every single building, every single person, particularly for educators. So we're trying to figure out where those, as she likes to say, looses and tights are in that area. So it's an ongoing discussion. There is a survey out right now proposing 3 options and trying to get the feel for how the educators feel about the length of the workday and where what's referred to as deficit hours, how those are going to be dealt with. So I'm not sure where the line between negotiable and non-negotiable hits in that discussion. So let me know what questions you have and what else I can expand upon.
Jill, hey, I have one.
Yeah.
I think that does cross the line as far as what's negotiable and what's not. I mean, if you look at the language that we have in the contract right now, I think that's kind of the limit about what's negotiable. So the work hours, like the start days or start times and end times, things like that are not.
All right, and that feeds directly into where do the other hours come from, I guess? Are those established professional development days? Are those things that employees will have a little bit more control over on how they fill out those hours? I think I see your point, Brent. But where we land with that decision with the district has impact on how we determine professional development. Q, will you give me a nod if you're thinking along the same lines or not?
Sorry, yes. Do you love, am I giving you guys vertigo by walking as I'm carrying my little Zoom thing?
No.
Yes, and they're wrapped up together, and yet if we try to think of a way to maybe keep it simple for the purpose of the contract, we may be able to keep similar language to what's already in there. Initially, I was thinking of suggesting which I'm still open to, a percentage, like X percentage is, I don't know if you call it self-directed or X percentage is PD. There's different, you guys know there's different ways you can do it. I looked at, and we want to be careful that we're not going beyond the scope and still honoring that. I mean, not the whole shift, shifting to the 4-day is really, it's supposed to be a better way to think and learn and plan and explore things together. And I think we've got some really cool creative ideas. So I'll throw a really simple solution out that may be so simple it works or it may not work. Really 2 different things. One could be we look at percentages. The other could be we look at what's currently in the CBA, and we just adapt it for the 4-day week, knowing the number of days we have, if that makes sense. Because I think it's, 4 professional development days that are in there now, and yet the number of non-student contact days are significantly increasing. So that could be a way that we would do it. Like if you, and I can share this instead of just on my little camera, if that's helpful. But I'd be curious to hear thoughts from CCCEA folks on which might be better, a percentage or staying with the actual number of days and just looking at it in terms of proportions.
One of the things I feel like I dropped the ball on is looking at comparable districts who have 4-day weeks and what their calendars look like. And that might be, have you done any of that research, Q?
A little bit, and maybe that's something that we all assign ourselves, because I would love, love, love to duplicate what other 4-day districts are doing that's working. I did look at 27Js when we were thinking about the whole timepiece. And that's actually what began what Jill just so nicely summarized, what Michelle sent out. I mean, that's where we started, is looking at that. But again, then all of a sudden we're dipping into the overall timepiece, because we're talking, how many minutes of planning during the student contact day and how many minutes outside. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. So yes, I love that idea. I have talked to Frank. I call him 4-Day Frank in the Grands. He's shared some stuff with me. I've talked to Dave over in Gilpin a little bit, but I'd love it if people reached out. We've got great models. Holyoke just went. If anyone's got connections in Holyoke, I know they just switched this last year. They're going on year 2 of 4-day. That'd be great. I'll just put it out. My ideal would be that our educators, when we get to the end of year 1 of the shift to a 4-day school week, say, wow, I was able to engage in the learning and the collaboration that I wanted to, and I had better, more efficient, effective time to grade, to do my individual plans, like all that self-directed stuff. I believe that there's a way to do that, and we might not hit it perfectly the first year, but it is a little bit of a mix of what's happening with the number of days and then how are we spending that time. But I'm pretty committed to listening to feedback from educators from the survey we sent out for the timepiece. And you guys, Sandy texted me and said she can't get back into the live stream.
It should be like a new window. So if she was just still on the window that she opened before, it's like a new live stream.
Okay, I'm telling her that. So you guys know too, we've got board members who committed to listening tonight. So hooray, welcome everyone.
Board members. Thank you for being there.
Yes, everyone.
Wherever you are.
So it's a new link, or it's just she's got to close the window and get back in?
Yeah, use the original. This is where the live stream will appear.
Okay.
Because it's like to my YouTube channel. I figured it's the easiest way for folks to find it.
Okay. Oh, she's in. Hi, Sandy. Okay, sorry. That seems important.
So what are folks' thoughts on, I think Q put out 2 potential ideas around percentages, or looking at the current collective bargaining agreement says and adapting that to the 4-day work week. Are there any, I know there's a survey that's gone out, just to kind of get the conversation started if you would like, or if you want to wait till the survey results come back as well.
Well, I want to specify the survey results actually are really specific to the time. So I think Jill and our brains are going the same place, because we've kind of been deep in these conversations we see the interplay. We all see the interplay, right? But if we're thinking about what we have to get done in the CBA, we have to get done the number of work days, right? Number of contract days, which I'm really hoping we don't change a ton, because that family calendar is out, but we certainly could. It seems like it's a good number. It's a lot less than before, even though the days are longer. And then we need to decide on the number of professional development days, or a percentage. I love help thinking it through, but the survey is different. I don't think we have to wait for that to come back.
And I'll expand. I don't think, Emily, that we have anything in the CBA for this topic yet. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought we did.
Well, maybe we do. I just don't feel like we bargained for it before.
Yeah, because our calendar didn't change. We have the number of days. Work
Just
days.
codified what was already in policy at the time.
Okay, like a transfer over.
Yep.
Okay. And then what was the other thing I was going to say? It was something about policy, and I can't remember what it is now. No, it wasn't. We would have to determine what percentage we were doing previously. Like, I don't think there was whatever method used to establish it oh so many years ago is unknown to anyone currently. So if we want to figure out what percentage we had, we will have to go mathematically
I
figure it
bet
out.
Michelle McNeil knows. I'm serious. I bet she does.
Listening, she could text me if she does.
And so I'd love for folks to figure out what's working in other 4-day districts. I'd also love to hear from CCCEA, like what's important to you as we're thinking about these number of days? Does the number of work days that are currently in the calendar as we've got it, which again, we just approved the family calendar, not the staff calendar, but as we've been doing some of the counts for our instructional minutes, I feel like we came up with a number of work days, 168 teacher days. Does that does that work? Because that's maybe a starting place. And then what are you thinking about what would be effective and helpful in thinking about professional learning versus individual time, knowing that you guys are rocking it in terms of the hard work that we're doing in our buildings. So
I think that one of the questions, if we haven't decided on the day, like, have we decided on, I should know this maybe, but maybe not. I feel like I don't know what my day looks like next year. I don't know how long it is. I've heard like 35 minutes longer. I know it's going to go 2 weeks later.
yeah, so the survey is specific to the length of the days. And there's 3 different scenarios that people are weighing in on, and that determines what's the overall count. We were trying to figure out how do you translate the current, maybe a better way to say it, the jobs will be the same from this year to next year, right? Like teaching, although it gets harder every year, we all know that. So I'm not oversimplifying that, but the job is the same. We're spreading the hours out differently. And in the survey that went out, there's 3 different scenarios. I want to say one is like an 8.75 work day. Another one's a 9-hour, maybe the other one's a 9.25. Most of the 4-day districts that I've spoken with have either a 9 or above. I get a little nervous about that. And then we also had a conversation around what does that Friday look like? So I don't know if that helps. Again, we have to negotiate the number of work days and the number of PD days, but I get it, Polly. You kind of want to know what's the flow of the week going to feel like.
I'm just thinking like King Murphy meets every Tuesday for an hour. Does that mean I'm going to be here until 6:30 at night? Like,
nope.
Are those meetings going to be on the Friday? Are we just going to, I'm trying to, and how many hours I work.
Yep.
It matters to how many days I work, right? Like if I'm working a 10-hour day or 9-hour day or.
Yeah, all those things. And I think as you were just describing it, that's exactly, I think, what Jill had articulated really well, is that my goal is not to be so directive to each building, like everyone's going to clock in at 7:55 and clock out. I think my job as I'm thinking about the length of the workday, as well as even like staff meetings and self-directed time during the day, which is currently in board policy, all those things. What I believe we need to do is, and again, this is separate from the actual number of days, but they intersect. That data comes back, that information comes back. And then I, along with Jill and Michelle, hopefully, and our principals, come up with a set of loose and tight. So let's go to the buildings. And then a shared leadership team in partnership with the building leader should then be determining, okay, we want to have staff meetings every Wednesday, or we want to have it on the Fridays, but remember, it's only one Friday a month that folks are working. So only having one staff meeting a month, like, is that cadence enough for folks? And in mucking around with this, what I was reminded about was the work day and the student day at elementary is different from secondary. Like secondary folks have a nice 67-minute planning period in the middle of the day, but elementary, when you bring your kids to specials and back and you pee and you call a parent, yours is like 5 minutes. I mean, I know it says it's 50, but it's shorter, but you have more time on either side. So again, those are items that we're negotiating, but they are impactful. I will be at King Murphy, I can't remember which day, but I'm happy to sit down and talk it through with you, Polly, just like I did with Jill, and see if that's helpful. And I'll do that with anyone. Like, here's kind of what we're hearing and we're thinking. It has to work for people.
Right. Well, I just don't feel prepared to
Sure.
go on the number of days when I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The hours that equates to.
Sure. Sure. And the scenarios that Michelle helped us calculate have actual hours in there. But this is me talking after like 2 months of having Michelle help me think about it and talking it out loud with people. Anyone who will listen, I've met with and talked to, and the more times I talk it through, the more clarity I get. But holy smokes, did it feel messy at first. So
I think what she has is the scenarios show, if you work like 8.75 from this date to that date, and then here's the total of hours, which we're trying to get to 1530. And here's the deficit on this example. And then option 2, if we work, I think once blended, where it's like 3 days a week, it's 8.75, and then 1 9-hour day, and then, and then the total of that, and then what the deficit is. And when I say that, that's the number of days somehow they have to make up. And that's the question, is how do you want to make it up? I think I'm correct on that. And so it's like, do we spread it out and add the 2 days, one on the end and one on the beginning? No, I
it's
thought
not
that
about
was one of the scenarios, but
not about the days, it's about the hours, but really good good points.
yeah. So I'm just in old school mode when I say days, but I mean hours. How are we going to manage those deficit hours? And I think the final one is like, it's like over. I think it's like there's 2 of them that the hours need to be figured out how to manage that. I'm sorry, I'm talking with my hands so much.
It's okay.
And then the last scenario is like, I think it's an overage of hours. So that, Polly, is what the survey is. You can look at those, and it's a really nice breakdown.
Yeah. And Jackie, if you don't have it, I'll send it to you, or Polly or Jill can send it to you, because it takes all people thinking about it, right? So here's my old school sharing. Here's what it looks like. And at the bottom of the bullets, it's like, hey, if we have hours, we still need to find, because again, I want this to work for people. And I don't think we have to be as maybe mandated as some other districts are. There's some, I think, pretty cool ideas we've generated, like, hey, as a teacher, if you're going to do X number of hours first semester to dig into something you're super passionate about, awesome. That doesn't have to be on site. That's something you do on your own. And then somehow you bring that back and maybe you share it with a group or whatever. That's one. Family engagement hours, which very often goes into a CBA, right? Like, hey, we already know we're going to come to a band concert, where conferences can't count in there because conferences are already counted as a work day. But all those things that teachers do anyway, hey, count those hours. Again, we're trying to make it work for folks. But again, I want to caution us, it's about the number of days. Would it be helpful if I did a share screen with a calendar, or do you guys want to just dig into stuff?
I know Jill said she had a document to share. Is that the one that would be helpful with the dialogue round?
It's the same one that Q is sharing, old school.
Is it this one?
No. The survey with the scenarios, that one. I could show the scenarios, but again, we're not bargaining the workday because that's not in our purview, but it has large implications to PD.
Yeah.
So I can share that if that's helpful.
Would folks like to see that? Sure. I see thumbs up. Yes. Okay.
Hear me, sorry. That was sent out this weekend, right? Is that correct?
Do you want me to
Sure.
grab it?
No, I have it. It's right here. Was it sent out this weekend?
It was either Sunday or Monday.
Make sure I have it pulled up.
Okay. If not, I can probably grab it from my Google Drive pretty quick.
I got it. I just wanted to not share a bunch of weird stuff. All right, now I can't see any of you, but are you seeing the document?
Eek. Hang on.
Yes, we are.
All right, so lots of discussion points and then the 3 scenarios. So this one they all have the same times for secondary and elementary hours. Those are all the same. What we're debating is down here on the work hours. So this one has 1 day a week, doesn't have to be Wednesdays. That is a half hour longer than the rest. So you can see how many hours you would be contracted for in a day. And then if we were working that given Friday, maybe we don't have that 1 day that's extended. And then we go through the entire calendar, and that's what all this is how many 4-day weeks, how many 5-day weeks, how many holidays, we have a 3-day week, blah, blah, blah. And then it comes up with, we have 1478.5 hours, meaning we're short this much from the 1530 that's in board policy.
And a quick clarification on the elementary hours. We know the 8 to 3:30 is likely to be Carlson's. I think we're still nailing down King Murphy's, just so people don't like set their babysitting hours. It could be like 8:10 to 3:30 or 8:10 to 3:40. Brooke's working that out right now. And honestly, we're not super worried about instructional hours at elementary. Secondary is where we really had to figure that out. Go down to the second scenario, Jill. I don't know if that helps or not. I didn't mean to be bossy, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask if we were ready for that.
No.
So this one is similar, except it's a 9-hour day for teachers with an extra 15 minutes, 1 day, all the same on a 5-day week. And then ultimately, our deficit is less, 17.5. So I'll show that for a little bit longer for any questions or comments.
So I have a question about the board policy around hours. And this just might be my inner troublemaker of like, why do we have this rule? Has there been conversation about if you're meeting instructional minutes, changing that board policy? Just out of curiosity.
No, and I thought about that too. Like, what does that mean as we move it forward? Well, I've said a couple things out loud to all the employee groups as people have wrapped their heads around this. One is we want to keep people whole. We don't want to drop anyone's salaries. And that's really because there's some worry around that when we're switching to a 4-day. And then 2 is it's the same job spread out differently.
Mhm.
I would have a difficult time, I think, justifying to myself as well as to the board why the number of hours would be going down, the number of work hours would be going down, because again, it's the same job. And my mantra has been, we're really trying to use time more efficiently, more effectively. The other piece around that, and I was thinking about this, Jackie, as you were asking that question, in the contextual stuff that I wrote above, I tried to elevate that, no one's standing at the door checking watches. Like right now, people work they get the job done, right? They work what they're going to work.
Mhm.
And I worried a little bit in sharing this document that folks are going to get really anxious and say, oh my God, I can't, walk out the door at 4:25 or 4:15. That's not what this is about. That's where we trust each other as professionals and we trust the building leaders. I think the bigger piece is how do we find the cadence and the pace? I have heard a lot of advocacy for We really need weekly staff meetings at all levels, and we don't have that currently at the secondary. That might mean if they're staying a little longer on a Wednesday, they go a little earlier on a Tuesday. I don't know. It doesn't need to be overly prescriptive, but we need a core so that people can think through it, just like we have a core now.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I was just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I would actually like to do what Finland does. And I don't know, I think it's like for every hour you teach, you have like what, 3 or 4 hours of planning and prep. That's where we need to get to.
We literally just talked about that at Sheridan table last week. We were like,
Seriously.
here's my option. We moved to Finland.
Right? Yeah, I know it's a whole societal shift, right? Like we are professionals as educators. We acknowledge we need time to work individually. We need time to work together in small groups, and we need time to learn together. The last thing I want to do is make people feel like it's got to be in boxes. And I need to, I need my leaders empowered to be able to bring in the professional learning that's going to help us make the really important instructional shifts. I don't feel like we get pushback about that right now. And maybe I just don't hear it. I feel like people are soaking up the professional learning, like, yeah, let's go. And I feel like they want to come together. I do hear anxieties around, oh my God, am I going to be working 4 10s and not be able to get my kids from dance at 6:30 at night? No, we need balanced, healthy human beings.
I feel like I do need to know what the day is, like whether it's 9 and 5 before we can hash out the rest. Does Jill, your mouth moved, but I
We can
can't.
pick it right now. I'm just kidding.
My dog is barking very loudly outside right now. I think he's been corralled in. Now I have to see if I can remember what I was saying. I'm going to say. I don't feel like I have a good pulse right now on the membership for where we should drive this. At this point, I could speak from my own experience. Whether that's helpful or not, I don't know. I do like the part of the conversation that we had, Q, where we talk about honoring professionalism and seeing, if we need to make sure that a certain number of hours are met outside of the contracted and laid out plan for the year, schedule, calendar, etc. I like employees having that option of how do I meet that? Because we talked about how some people that don't have children and maybe aren't married, don't have a significant other, don't have a lot of time commitments outside, and they do a great job of working from home. I don't know if that's an option. That doesn't work for me. Just the dog scenario was an example. Working from home is really difficult for me and wouldn't be possible until probably 10 years from now. So I would really like to come to an agreement that honors that professionalism, but also honors individually the needs of the teachers, certified staff, so that they can get their job done in the best possible environment to make it happen.
Yeah, totally agree.
Melanie, yeah.
I noticed on the survey that it's for the certified staff only to complete. So are the support personnel going to be receiving a separate survey, or are you just building a schedule around what the teachers end up with? I'd like some direction as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Robin's really good at going, come on, we got to figure this out too, right? Because it's like, there's so many decisions to make around that.
Yeah, and once we have, kind of waiting to hopefully find out what's going to happen with that, because we need to we're trying to keep everybody's, like the pay comparable. We don't want a lot of pay differences and, so we're trying to figure out how to do the equations and the calculations to make that, I'm going to sit on my hands, to make that happen for next year. And the best way to do it is to start with the teacher's calendar first. I mean, that's, even in my world of the system, everything that's the first calendar I put in. And then everything just sort of flows around that, because we need to know that to know, well, what classified and transportation is a whole other story. We'll have to work on that, but hopefully, we'll have probably some, I'm assuming maybe some scenarios, we'll probably be looking at different scenarios, I would think, to look at as well. So
yeah, good question and good point. And just as Robin was saying, I mean, some of it's going to be designated by the school day, right? Like our bus drivers will pick up kids in the morning, do the stuff in the, it's the same. Where we will have some challenges again is how do we keep them all whole if they're not working a Friday? We kind of think the hours are going to work themselves out. Like Melanie, you did that really great thing last year. Remember?
Yeah, I don't know where I put it, but
I have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so paras will do the same job. It's just spread out, the days a little bit longer.
In talking with Michelle, we've kind of gone over some scenarios, and I think, that hours kind of thing will come into play too. We'll look at we'll be looking at like Melanie, like how you're spread out and you're paid year round. So we're looking, that's kind of a similar thing, but instead of doing by days, we'll break it down by hours, just like she kind of did with the teachers. So.
Yeah. And I want to be careful about sending a survey out that would be asking something that we might not be able to change. For example, like food service, we got to that's hourly based on when we got to do the lunches, right? And so if there are decision points like there have been with teachers, then we would do another survey. I think the difference with the teachers in the classrooms is that they work longer than the kids' day, and they have planning periods, and they've got things that really need to get, like all the grading they do, right? They get accomplished outside of kid time. So.
And I know, Jill, I think you had gone over 2 scenarios. Was there a third? And is there any interest in folks looking at that third one? I had the first option was a deficit of 51.5, second 17.5. You all know all this and you don't want to review it. I just keeping track.
I can just tell it, I can put it up if you need me to. But the third scenario is a surplus of 23 hours, and that's working mostly 9.25 hour days.
I'm hearing that until we know exactly what the day is going to be like, it's hard to know that. So maybe putting the cart before the horse. But I wanted to make sure you all could have this dialogue, even though we're not negotiating certain aspects of this. Thoughts are being put out there about potential solutions or ideas, trying to make this as creative as possible, if I'm hearing you all correctly. Any other thoughts, questions on this at this point? Meaning work days. I know we're trying to maybe combine that with PD days. Are there any points of clarification or talking points around the professional development days we want to discuss in this full group? Or do we not know until, yes, Jill?
And it's actually about the survey. We keep going back to that. Was there any thought at the district level about putting a just comments section in the survey? Is that just inviting a little too much?
Yeah, and I don't know if I might need to do a follow-up email. Yeah, we talked about it both ways and then said, I would prefer comments and questions and even really cool ideas go to the direct supervisor or building leader. I was really worried there'd be a lot of misperceptions or misconceptions. You know how anxious I get about like the calendar and this, because I don't want people freaking out. And I was worried without an individual conversation, people wouldn't be able to respond, which is why you guys were brilliant and encouraged me to meet with each leader ahead of time. So they had some of that thinking. But I don't think I put that, I don't think I even asked Michelle to put that in that little context piece. I probably need to do a follow-up email that says, if you have questions or ideas or comments, bring those to your direct supervisor. And then I'll bring supervisors together and say, okay, what did we hear? Yeah, what do you think?
I think it's a conversation type item. And I understand your hesitancy with the survey because it's a lot to take in and try and understand and then make a decision on. And I can tell you that I've talked to a couple of educators just today, and several of them said, yes, I opened the survey and I looked at it and I closed it and I didn't because it's a lot to take in. So I actually sent Gould an email asking if we were going to discuss it
Yes.
Friday, and I don't know if we are, but it feels like a conversation item in every building.
I agree.
So that everyone's clear on what's going on.
Yep, totally agree. And I would love for leaders to facilitate that conversation and then invite me in as they need it. That's how we'll figure out the best solution.
Okay. I guess moving forward with that, I think having the results of the survey will be somewhat revealing, but I also would like to know how much flexibility is possible with possible deficit hours. I'll be real honest, I don't think many people are going to choose I want to work an extra 3 days. just going to guess that. So I'm guessing we're going to end up with one of the other scenarios, the deficit scenarios, and then that also begs the question of how do we deal with that? So knowing how flexible we can be will help me decide how we should move forward with the PD days, and where would we place them if that's necessary? How would they look?
Yeah, it's you guys are helping me kind of expand my thinking, because when I was thinking about the deficit hours, maybe I wasn't even worried. I'm like, we'll figure that out. Like, people do come to concerts, people do stuff on their own. But maybe I should be more worried about those. I've been more focused on the one Friday a month and how do we use that time in a way, again, that meets people's needs. It gives them the time they need for planning, grading, meeting, learning, and we're able to really build more coherence and do the work around the instructional shifts. And I think I made this up in my head, but even as we were shifting to a 4-day week and doing all our community meetings, first in my head, I was like, every Friday is going to be professional learning day. It's going to be awesome. And then as we started looking at this, I'm like, no, that doesn't work. People can't be in PD all day on Fridays. They'll lose their minds. So in my head, not to jump too far ahead, because this is Quambec's head and everyone listening is probably cringing right now, like, but in my head, I'm like, well, maybe it's Friday mornings, we're doing PD as a group, and Friday afternoons, our individual work time. I'm totally making that up. That might not be what people want. And that's kind of where I was in my head going, well, maybe we do a percentage. Maybe it's half and half. I have no idea if that's reasonable or not. Again, it has to work for people. I am not in a classroom. I can get worried about our results and our enrollment and our budgets. I need folks who are in the classroom on a day-to-day basis to go, this is what I need to get my job done. And I don't know if that means you guys are sending a survey out to members. Like, how are you thinking about using Fridays? How are you thinking about staff meetings during the week? I think we've kind of had a norm where, for the most part, not a lot happens that's like mandated during planning periods. And I think that's been pretty, like, it's been a choice, I think. And again, now I'm getting into time, but it makes me think about, so when do we come together and learn and look at data and slice and dice things outside of the kid day within the work hours, could be during the week? How do we use our Fridays? And what's a comfortable cadence for people? That's what I'm most interested in.
Okay, that's actually really helpful.
Okay.
Because I think a lot, speaking of assumptions that we talked about earlier, Emily, I think a lot of educators, at least ones that I have touched base with, they're making the assumption that if they choose one of the deficit pieces, that something will probably be dictated to them that they need to do. And I feel like the focus has been on that total number more so than how many hours we're working a day. And it sounds like you're more interested in getting feedback on the hours per day and how do you want to divide up the Friday?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not worried about the deficit hours. I might have a little bit more worry if we land on that first one, but I still think there's a way to figure it out, again, through the lens of professionals. What's the professional work that needs to be done? How many people do, like, they'll read professional literature at home, or they go on a website and they're learning about things, or they're going to a webinar, or they're taking some OG training, right? Like, but you just do it because it's part of your job. Couldn't those things fit into those deficit hours, which really need a different term for it, the extra hours that people are working? Like, what are all those things as an educator that people do? And if it's most effective, it's a combination of, here's the district priorities, here's what we're accomplishing as a school. Like at King Murphy, we are moving to an expeditionary experiential learning model. Awesome. I need some help around that. I need PD around that. And I need to understand what crew is. And I need time myself, Polly, I need to unpack my modules, and I need to figure out how my lessons are going to look. Like, that's all super time consuming. To me, like, if anything, we're probably worried more about, we never have enough time.
I think I do sort of have a question around this, and maybe, this is probably a building leader thing, but I'm just wondering what kind of PD the district is really looking at, or are you just talking about time to look at data and meet about our students and plan? And is that what the Friday PD would be, or would there actually be like people coming in and?
Both and either. And I really think those decisions are made best at the school level. And that's part of the idea behind the, what do I call it? The Becky and Q Roadshow, where we're like really trying to re-elevate, like, these are our priorities. The best educators, empowered learners, visionary district. Now let's drill that down. What does that mean? Now let's drill that down even more. And what are we about as a district? Well, we're about student voice. We're about experiential learning at elementaries. Would love it to eventually roll to secondary, but not yet. At the secondary, we're about career connected learning, and we're about our grad profile. But individual schools like King Murphy, I would think, wants, what I hear is they want to have time to dig into the modules and get professional learning around expeditionary. That's what should be provided. And it's done best when it's aligned to the district priorities, but those decisions are made at the building level. And that's why shared leadership teams are really important. And I think we've got some room to grow in that area too.
It sounds like we need to take this to our members and get more information then, right? That's where we're moving.
I think so, yeah. Because I want to know what you guys want and what will work for. I know as a district leader, like, here's my idea. That's kind of half and half, but what do you guys want?
Okay.
I think,
Go ahead, Jen.
you go first, Polly, or Jill, I'll go after you.
I just wanted to throw some numbers in there because I like to. But I need your help, and I'm hoping you know the answers, Q. If we were looking at a percentage for professional development days this year, I know teacher contract is 180 this year and proposed is 168 for next year. Total days.
Yes.
How many PD days do we have this year? And that's a little sticky too, because some of them are PD and some of them are teacher work days. Let's just go with the max right now and say, let's pretend they're all PD days. And we know we need to be below that number, or that we are below that number.
Like how many are in our calendar this year?
Yeah. How many are
I
in
don't
our
know
calendar?
without counting. I should know
14.
that.
Well, I mean, the kids go 166 and we go 180. Can we just do it that way?
Oh, you're
Oh.
so smart, Paul.
That darn kindergarten teacher, she knows everything.
I used to be a math teacher, but I just lost my license.
But I mean, you're right. Some of them are work days
Grading days or.
but we have 14 days without students to do other work.
Okay, and then for next year, how many days are we working that students aren't there? 153 to 168?
152 to 168,
So that's
14, right?
16?
No.
152?
Oh, sorry. It's, 152 student days, 168 teacher days. There are 2 conference days because those are paid days. But remember, we said this upcoming year, buildings can schedule their conferences in a way that makes sense for them. And that could actually be, I don't know how this factors in, but this year and years behind us, haven't conferences been like a mini day and then a full day? Or am I making that up?
It's
Oh,
been
no,
a mini day and 2 evenings.
that's what it is. And what we did for the upcoming year, 2023, is we just, again, old school share. We just tagged a day in October. October 21st is conference day. And then February 17th, but said buildings schedule that in a way that works because it's probably different elementary versus secondary.
Sure. So that's included in the 168 is what you're saying.
No, I think that's included in the workday. Is that in the 168 or the 152?
In the 168. So, there's 168 teacher days, and that includes, check my math, actually Michelle's math, that includes 152 student days plus 14 PD/plan days, we didn't specify, plus 2 conference days. Does that add up to 168?
Yes, it does.
Awesome. Okay.
So 16 non-student contact days next year is what I'm getting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because I don't think we count conferences as student contact days, even though we'd like them to be there, but they're not.
Okay, so this year, and again, PD versus teacher workday, I'm just maximum, if we counted everything as PD, this year we're looking at 7.8% of the teacher contract is in those non-student contact days, potentially PD. And the next year, again, if we max it out, it's 9.5 if you do 16 out of 168.
But I don't know if we're counting the conference days the same. I think we need to compare 14 to 14. Because whether it's tagged the way it is in the calendar now or tagged the way that it was in the calendar this year, there's still, like, you wouldn't use a conference day for PD. It's conferences. So don't you have to pull it out? Otherwise, you're going to get a weird percentage.
I hear what you're saying, and it's not clicking in my head yet, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out the answer to your question. So you're probably right.
I don't know. What I really want to do, because I'm super concrete is in visual, is take both of the calendars and sit next to Michelle, because she gives me comfort, and count the days, and we could, I mean, I probably did this somewhere, I don't know where it is, but count, how do we use them this year? How are we going to use them next year? And again, we want to be thinking about how are we meeting the needs of folks. One of the big pieces to going to a 4-day week is to give ourselves better, more efficient time. Better, more effective, I guess. And I think
The fact that we have 14 days, even with the new calendar, means that we're increasing our non-student days or times. And is that the intent?
yes, I don't know. I have to compare them side by side. I want to say yes, because we need more planning time. We want to be increasing the time that we have for folks to learn and collaborate and grade and plan and all that good stuff. We did also make a promise to our community that at the secondary level, we would increase our instructional minutes, even in shifting to the 4-day week, which we were successful in doing, which is great, because that was one of the big parent concerns. You're just cutting into instructional hours. You're going to do a terrible job. And so we accomplished that. It's just spread out differently.
Any other questions, dialogue that we want to have on this topic for right now, knowing that nothing being decided right now, but just points of clarification that might direct the conversation once we have more information and may be able to make a determination around PD days.
Maybe one other thing I'll say, well, hopefully folks are listening, because I didn't put it in the little bulleted notes, but I really like the idea, is if people want to change I have to say this carefully. Right now, most of the non-student contact, but work days are the first Friday of the month. A building we wouldn't be individuals, but a building could decide to move that to a different Friday, because we talked about that, I think, in light of December, and secondary maybe wanting, instead of December 2nd for their work day, to be Friday the 16th because of where the semester falls. But that, again, that should be a building shared leadership decision. I would like to make sure we have maybe 2 that are the same throughout the whole district in case we want to do something magical, but I'm not overly worried about that either, because my guess is most of them will fall where they're at right now. Buildings might advocate to move them based on something that's specific to a grading period. Or, I mean, it could be too, like, hey, we want to bring in Bon Jovi for professional learning in November. And so Bon Jovi can only be here on November 11th. And so they switch the workday. That would be fine too. Emily's now considering us her favorite team because she wants to come hear Bon Jovi in November.
I mean, I'm not going to say no.
Right?
So we're going to reach out to our members, get a feel for the Fridays. Look at the days and the hours.
And I'll make a similar commitment. You guys, I've got all leaders together tomorrow. I'll ask them for some input as well. What are they hearing anecdotally from their staff with questions, comments, concerns, and what are they thinking about in terms of what makes sense to them? What would their hope and desire be for PD versus planning versus grading, and what makes sense?
Okay, great.
Okay, then we'll continue this conversation on the 25th, see if we have any updates, more information to help us formulate a determination around the criteria that we were able to negotiate. Okay. Regards to other outstanding issues, compensation, is there any updates, points of clarification, talking points on that one at this point? I know there was information shared before.
I'll say it out loud. I shared with, I think, Jill and Polly, our board has a study session this Thursday. And one of the agenda topics is talking about the compensation requests. And I think I don't want to confuse it with the business meeting. Holly, you may need to help me. I think on this Thursday, we're also talking about the fund balance, cap reserves needs. I think it's like a money conversation. It's not the first topic because I think we've got some stuff around board seats as well as legislative committees. So the second two things will be specific to that. Which, it's recorded. I know folks will probably be busy working, but anyone can access that afterwards. Or hop on because we're fun. And then the 26th is the next business meeting. And I know Holly's prepped up to do a quarterly financial update, shining a light on ESSER, because she likes to shine a light on ESSER. Those are kind of factor into compensation.
Any follow-ups on that? So we're kind of in a holding pattern, it seems like. Oh, sorry, Jill, please.
Sorry, I've been talking a lot. I'm sorry. So yes, we're trying to get the documents together. As I mentioned, the comps that were asked for by the board members.
Yep.
So we're trying to get those documents together to share. And we'll send them to Athena so they can be shared with you, Q, as well as the board members. So you'll have that for the study session on Thursday. If you get there, I don't know if you will. And then we'll revisit that on the 26th.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, what did you get? Don't show Polly. She's in her classroom starving. All she has is goldfish and gummy bears.
Jealous. Well, are there any other, oh, sorry, Jill, go ahead.
Oh, no, that was it. I was just going to say, and juice. She's got juice in there. Don't worry.
Juice, gummy bears, and goldfish. I'm 37 years old and my house also has all those items. So
I feel like that is the entire food pyramid.
it really is. Just so you know how I eat. So anything else we want to talk about? I know it's 6:18. I think we're kind of in a holding pattern on some of these items. I don't know what else we would like to talk about today. Are we done early? I know Q says she needs to dip out around 6:40, but I want to leave us some time to talk about anything else, or are we good for today? Thumbs up means we're good. All right. Well, then, as always, I thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, please let me know. But I will see all of you on, I think it's on a Monday, the 25th. Monday, April 25th, from our 4 to 7 p.m. scheduled time.
Okay.
Jackie.
We still need to do the summary.
Yes, I'm so sorry. We're doing our joint checkout. Who wants to draft that up?
I'm better at talking than typing.
I can do it. Let me open up a email. Who did I send it to last time? Q and Brittany? Is that who I sent it to, Polly?
Mhm. Ryan, maybe? Was he your communications guy?
Brittany Polly is her communications.
Okay.
Q. Okay.
You ready? I can start talking, although Polly's really good at that too. But she's food deficient. She's angry.
All right. I'm ready. Just don't talk too fast.
Okay, I'll start. Polly, jump in. I don't want to. We confirmed upcoming bargaining dates. The next one is April 25th, starting at 4 o'clock. We revisited, or not revisit, we looked at proposed norms and agreed on them. We trained on intentional bargaining. We had a conversation around the financial audit based on CCCEA questions. You type so fast. Oh my God.
Just, it's a noisy keyboard. It sounds impressive.
We talked about next steps for developing a collective bargaining agreement for classified, and agreed to incorporate that into our upcoming bargaining dates, but divide the time in half. I don't know if there's a better way to say that. And we began the topic of number of work days and professional development days.
Can you do that last one real quick for me again?
We began the topic of number of work days and professional development days.
For certified, correct?
Yes.
Um,
Holly, what did I miss?
I think you got it all. Great. I forgot about
Sure.
the things you did, so thank you.
let me read it out again. Let me fix some of my issues. Okay. We confirmed upcoming bargaining dates. The next is April 25th at 4. Is that the right date? Okay. We revisited group norms and agreed. I can fancy that up a bit. We trained on intentional bargaining. We had a conversation around the financial audit based on CCCEA questions. We talked about next steps for developing a collective bargaining agreement for classified and agreed to incorporate that into our upcoming bargaining dates, but divide the time in half. And maybe wordsmith that a little bit more to make that clear. We began the topic of number of work days and professional development days for certified employees. Classified employees' work days will be determined after that. I added that extra piece.
Yeah. And I don't know if this matters or not. Some of them might be determined already, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I don't know.
I can figure out a way to kind of word that
No.
in.
I don't know that it matters. Like, yeah, Robin's like, oh, like maintenance, I think, they're already, yeah. Robin, you have to unmute yourself and say what you're thinking. I'm probably making you crazy.
No,
What if I-
no, do I look, I know you say I have a bad poker face, so it's just not as bad as Brent though. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe leave that out because we didn't really talk about that. I mean,
Okay.
kind of touched on bus drivers and stuff, but maybe just kind of maybe firm that up a little more. Do you think?
Okay. I reworded it to
Put
say
it in the notes.
changes to classified employee work days, if any, will be determined after that. I don't know if that sounds any better or if we should just nix it.
You mean work days or work hours or both?
I can write both. It's getting more complicated. So
I
this
know,
might
I'm
be
getting stressed
indicated.
about it.
I mean, that part was fine. I don't have a problem with that part. It was the part about like custodians and stuff were already maybe determined.
Right.
Yes, probably so, but maybe, yeah, maybe let's wait until,
Okay.
well, it's probably true, but I don't know. I guess I'm indifferent to it.
It'll be confusing no matter what, because whenever you switch schedules, it's confusing.
I know. I didn't mean to have a cringy
No,
face.
no, I think it's how I feel. Like, Just, yeah, that's a good example of all the little teeny tiny decisions that have to get made with the 4-day. That's like, I don't know, but we got to figure it out.
I guess I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. And I don't
Put
want,
everything out there in writing or something.
yeah. And I don't
Right,
want
I
any
took it
folks
out.
to get anxious.
It's gone.
All right, any other questions on that? Are we good with our joint statement?
Okay. I'm good. Yeah.
Head nods and thumbs. That's what I like to see.
Okay. I'm just cleaning up a little more and putting some transitions in because you should. Just what Mrs. Riley always taught the kids, more transitions. Okay, that's it. I'm good.
All right, any other topics for discussion for the group today?
Think positive about Block 57. Everyone send good karma, good karma, good karma.
Karma, good karma. Now
Let's
Polly
go.
can go home and not eat gummy bears and goldfish. Unless she wants. There's no judgment.
All right. I'm going to sign off because I'm going to boogie down there.